I will come to your question in just a minute, David. Let me go first through, that was a question from Bo from last week. So Bo writes, you mentioned sometimes in your video that we cannot experience our true nature. Then this was countered by saying that our true nature can be realized. So I'd like to clarify what's the difference between realizing our true nature and experiencing something. So it's possible that I said in one of my videos that you cannot experience your true nature. I speak I speak as per my inspiration at the moment. When I'm pointing at something, I'll use whatever language is appropriate at that moment. But let me clarify what would be the significance of that statement that you cannot experience your true nature. So a fish does not experience being a fish because he is a fish. It is a fish. The fish is a fish, and so you cannot experience being a fish. In the statement that you cannot experience your true nature, what is meant is that given that you are your true nature, you are the self, that you cannot have a dualistic experience. There is no subject-object relationship in the experience of the self. There is a tendency to misunderstand experience. The misunderstanding that we have of experience is due to the assumption that there is a subject, a separate subject that is experiencing an external object. There is a dualistic assumption in our, let's say, common understanding of experience, and I would say misunderstanding of experience. The assumption that is not examined is that I am a separate body-mind experiencing an external world. There is an original misunderstanding, an original mistake that permeates our perception, permeates our understanding. And that original mistake is that there is a separate consciousness that is connected to every body. So body A has consciousness A, body B consciousness B, body C consciousness C. This, the identification of consciousness with the form, with the body-mind, is the basic assumption that is referred to as ignorance, the ignorance of our true nature, the ignorance of truth. From that assumption, there is the impression that I am a perceiver of a world, that I am perceiving an external world, that I am perceiving something that is external to me. And so from that position, which is an identification, the world appears external to us, and our happiness is mistaken to be in a world situation or in a certain experience. And therefore we pursue happiness in the world, in relationships, in situations, in experiences. And that does not really deliver the happiness that we seek. So your true nature can be realized. You realize your true nature by simply contemplating, investigating your belief structures. As you contemplate your belief structure, the main belief being that you are a body-mind, that you are mortal. In contemplating and in inquiring into this belief system, if the inquiry is done correctly, what will be revealed to you is that you are not an object that is perceived, that you are not a form that is born, that you are not an event in time and space. What may be revealed to you is that you are awareness, you are presence, you are consciousness, you are knowingness, you are the knower of all that is known. And all that is known from you, is a manifestation of you. In other words, what may be revealed to you in your contemplation is that in fact there is no external world that you're experiencing. There are no external others that you are relating to. That all relationships and all experiences are the self, our consciousness, knowing itself, appearing as itself, manifesting as itself, out of itself, as forms, while remaining formless. A good metaphor for that is your night dream. That in your night dream, there are all sorts of perceptions, images, mind events that arise out of you, the dreamer. These events, no matter what form they take, do not affect you, the dreamer. If you dream that you are swimming in the ocean, you do not wake up wet. You wake up completely dry. If you dream that you are a bird, you do not wake up with wings. You wake up as the dreamer. The dream events arise out of you. They are made out of you. The substance of the bird that's flying in your night dream is mind. This mind is arising out of you, the dreamer. And it's known by you. As it's arising, as you're creating it, you're knowing it. So the night dream is a good metaphor for consciousness in the waking dream. In the waking dream, which is not different from the night dream, except that the impressions have more of a continuity, an impression of continuity. The events that arise, meaning the perceptions in your waking state, like right now, perceiving the screen, the thoughts that you perceive, the bodily sensation that you perceive, their substance is consciousness. They arise out of you, they're known by you as they're arising, and they dissolve in you. So yes, our true nature, which is consciousness, impersonal, universal consciousness, can be realized. And that is, in a way, one could say, the goal of this spiritual inquiry. And the goal or the purpose of this entire dream, this entire experience, no matter where it's occurring and throughout the entire universe, this entire experience has one purpose, which is the return home, which is the realization of what you truly are. And that is not an experience. It's a non-experience. It's a revelation. It's actually the dissolving of the impression of an experiencer, the ending of the impression of an experiencer, of a personal experiencer, and the revelation that I am that. I am all of that. I am the experiencer, the experienced, and the experiencing as one. It's a non-dual revelation, the revelation of our non-dual nature. And what's really lovely about this revelation is that it brings an end to the dualistic mind. And the dualistic mind is the mind of suffering, the mind of seeking, and the mind of resisting. It brings an end to that entire dynamic, that entire process of seeking and avoiding, which has a contraction. It's a contracted state, whether you're seeking or whether you're avoiding, ends in that revelation, in the establishment of that revelation, in the establishment of the realization of what you truly are. Okay. Okay, Bo, so I hope this addresses your question. Yes, okay, you're welcome. Okay, right. So a good exercise, Bo, is when you are contemplating your experience, meaning you have to realize when I'm referring to experience, I'm referring to perceptions, sensory perceptions, mental thoughts, memories, images that we perceive, and bodily sensations. In contemplating your experience, ask yourself the following question. What is it that I'm experiencing? Am I perceiving a tree out there, or am I perceiving my perception? Am I perceiving a thought out there, or am I perceiving my perception of the thought? Am I perceiving an itch in my leg out there, or am I perceiving my sensation, my perception? The sensation is perceived. So if you ask yourself, am I perceiving an object out there, or am I perceiving my perception, you may come to realize that what you're really perceiving is your perception. Because all we know is our perception. And then you can ask yourself, well, where is my perception? Where is it located? Is it out there, or is it intimately right here? And you may come to the understanding that you're actually experiencing your experiences, actually perceiving your perception, and it's right here. It's intimate with you. You may ask yourself, what is the distance between I, the perceiver, and the perception that I am perceiving? You may come to realize that there is zero distance between you, the perceiver, and whatever it is that you're perceiving. Zero distance means not two. So the perceiver and the perceived are at zero distance of each other. They're not two. So one could say that the perceiver is perceiving itself as a tree. The perceiver is perceiving itself as a thought. It's never leaving itself. It never goes out to a tree out there and comes back. Because it's always perceiving its perception. You may come to a non-dual understanding of your experience. Another way you can look at it is to imagine there is a tree out there. If there is a tree out there, and you go out to the tree, boom, you connect with the tree, and then you come back. And then you say, okay, now I see the tree. The fact that you can go to the tree and back means that there is some connection, there is something that's connecting you and the tree. That something that is connecting you and the tree allows this perception, allows this interaction between you and the tree. Whatever it is that connects you and the tree, that is consciousness. So in a way, the tree and you are connected via consciousness, via a reality that connects both so-called separate entities. And the fact is that you are both the perceiver of the tree and the tree that is perceived, because you are at zero distance from your perception. So you can be open to the possibility that you are this entire realm of the perceiver and the perceived as this one consciousness that connects them. It's a little bit of a stretch from our impression in ignorance that I am here and the tree is out there as separate entities, separate objects. Be open to the possibility of a connection between them, and that this connection is essential for perception to occur. And that this connection is this one reality, this broader reality that brings the perceiver and the perceived together. Okay, David. Hey, David. So you're right. Hi, Magdi. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Something that comes up in contemplation a lot is, if my true identity is consciousness, why do I have so little control? If I am the dreamer, then this is not a very lucid dream. You know, David, you are mixing two different levels. You are saying, if I am consciousness, how come I, as a person, do not have control? You are mixing the absolute level with the imagined personal entity level. If you are consciousness, then all persons, all personal experiences, all personal thoughts, all events that seem to me personal are, quotes unquote, controlled, created, co-created by consciousness. So right now, it is consciousness that perceives this perception, this screen, and that same consciousness that we refer to as David is perceiving a different perception because you are in a different space, in a different room, in a different mindset, in a different country, etc., different time zone. So what evidence do you have that the consciousness that perceives this perception here, this mind event, is different from the consciousness that perceives a different mind event? Be open to the possibility that it could be equally true that it's the same consciousness that's perceiving different minds, and it's equally true, it's a 50-50 chance, that there are different consciousnesses that perceive two different mind events. Why be so certain that the consciousness that perceives the David perception is different from the consciousness that perceives the Magdi perception right now? Why be so sure that they are different? We believe that they are. We're so sure that they are because we feel that we are this body-mind. But consciousness that perceives the perception has no form, has no shape, has no gender, has no size. It has no phenomenal qualities. Given that consciousness has no phenomenal qualities, then one could not say that if consciousness that has no phenomenal qualities is located in United States or in England or in France or in Germany or whatever. Because only a phenomenal event, a phenomenal object or phenomenal manifestation has a geographical location, can be perceived as being in Washington, D.C. or as being in Honolulu. But consciousness is what perceives. Consciousness is the reality that perceives, and not an object that is perceived. An object whether it's a thought, a sensation, a perception, occurs in a certain time-space dimension. One could say that I perceived the thought of my mother at 10 o'clock this morning. I was thinking about my mother. So that thought, which is a phenomenal event, has a time location. I was sitting in my living room thinking about my mother at 10 o'clock this morning. But the consciousness that was aware of this perception, of this thought, that is not an occurrence. That is not an event. That is not a perception. So given that it does not occur in time and space, then it has no boundaries. It does not end in this room, and a different consciousness starts in England or in Belgium. It's not like that. So you can be open to the possibility that consciousness, meaning whatever it is that truly perceives this perception, is universal, has no phenomenal limitations. And so the impression of control, you are assuming control to a body-mind. You're mixing levels. You are asking about personal control. If consciousness is universal, how come I do not have personal control? Personal control is an illusion. Because when you examine the person, you will not find a person. You will find perceptions, sensations, thoughts. You will find consciousness. You will find awareness. So the person is like a consciousness dressing up in a certain outfit to play in the playground, but it's dressing up as all outfits. It is dressing up as David, as Magdi, as Paula, as Isaac, as everyone. But the reality of the person belongs to consciousness. So if you ask yourself, what am I? What am I truly? You will come to realize that whenever you're taking yourself to be a person, you are relying on thoughts and memory, and you're relying on a certain bodily sensation, a me sensation, a bodily sensation that you refer to as me, the person. But what you are overlooking is the consciousness that perceives this bodily sensation, this me sense. Anything that you refer to as yourself has a perceiver, a knower of it. And that knower is what you truly are. Do you follow this?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Can you see me because there's something going on?
No, I don't see you, but
Oh.
I hear you. Your screen is
Oh.
your video is not on. Oh, now it is. Now it
Yeah,
is.
there was
Yes.
something going on.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yeah, it's weird because I often seem to get this. But then I go to the metaphor of the dream, and I don't know if you're familiar with lucid dreaming.
Yeah, say some more. What
Yes,
is?
I used to practice a decade ago. I used to practice lucid dreaming. So in the night dream, you become aware, oh, this is a dream, this is not reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you gain some kind of control over the dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's confusing because in the day world and the daydream, I notice that I don't even have, I'm not doing this, I'm not speaking. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes, this has this is something on the background or on the foreground sometimes very strongly with me, that thoughts just come and go, actions come and go, and the doer, I don't really believe in the doer anymore, but still there is this confusion, like you say. Well, if I'm the dreamer of the dream, how come I feel like there is no connection, There is no, it's very confusing. I cannot
Okay.
really
Okay.
express it.
Okay. So there are dreams, there are thoughts, there are perceptions, and you have no control over them, and they come and go.
Yeah, it's like things are just happening. Like I used to believe that I was doing things and making choices. But like you say, everything depends on memory, and I can remember to be a man yesterday and 30 years ago, but when I'm dreaming in the night, I have different memories. So it's like, what is real, Only the perception, the perceiver is real. I understand this on some level, but get confused in daily life.
Yes. You see, no matter what perceptions are occurring, you are the knower of them. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you are untouched by them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
You as consciousness are untouched by them. Maybe the body mind is appearing, is subject to all sorts of conditions, subject to hunger, to thirst, etc. But you, the knower of these feelings, of these sensations, of these perceptions, you're like the screen. You're untouched. You're the neutral witness in a way of whatever is occurring, of whatever is arising. Like right now, you perceive this perception.
Mm-hmm.
And if I move my hand in front of the screen, or if I do this, it's the same untouched perceiver, and now it's a different perception, same untouched perceiver.
Yes.
If I clap my hand, you hear this, you're the same untouched perceiver, the knower. Or if I stay silent, the same presence, the same knower, the same awareness, consciousness. So whatever arises does not touch you. Yes?
Yes.
You perceive it, you know it, and it does not make you, it doesn't touch you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might ask yourself, well, what is creating these thoughts?
Exactly.
How come these thoughts are so random? What is the process, the nature of these thoughts? Now, there is an, let's say, take an engine of a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the engine, you step on the gas and the car moves forward in drive, when you put it in drive. You may ask yourself, what is the nature of this experience? Okay, what's this? What is behind this? What is behind this movement of the car? And if you ask a mechanic, he will explain to you that there are 60 different parts and pieces and elements and pistons and God knows what and valves and so on operating this you know, they're part of this perception of the car moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
So you may ask for example, a therapist, a psychologist about those thoughts that arise, you know, for you, and he or she may explain to you the 50 or 60 different conditions and traumas and events and so on that have happened in your life that result in this sort of specific firing of the neurons.
Yes.
Now, if you ask a neurologist, the neurologist will spend 5 years explaining to you the neuronic process that is connected to the entire symbiotic process in the entire, you know, body, the neurological system in the body, the sanguine system in the body, and how it's all connected. That is sort of firing and occurring, you know, connected, and the neurons that activated in the brain that trigger these thoughts. Mm-hmm. Now you may ask a historian, and the historian may have a whole series of explanations about, you know, the social conditions, the historical conditions, the life events, your DNA, your family tree, the revolution of, you know, 1218, etc., that are somehow connected to what you're experiencing right now in terms of the thoughts that are arising for you. Mm-hmm. Now, all of this is very interesting. You could also look at the astrological, you know, people who study astrology, mm-hmm. that can look at your astrological chart, and maybe the Indian, you know, very advanced astrological charts can talk to you about the lining up of the various stars and what section of your horoscope is in what house and so on and so forth, and could be connected to what you're going through in this month. Might be a different thing that will happen next month. But all of that is really irrelevant. I like to look at it differently. Mm-hmm. And it's just a point of view. It's a point of view. There are happy dreams and there are unhappy dreams. There is a concerned mind and a peaceful, unconcerned mind. There is a relaxed, open, transparent body mind, and there is a contracted, convoluted body-mind experience. And I, universal I, loves peace and happiness, joy, peace and happiness. No concern, not a sense of angst, not a worry. Yes?
Yes.
And what do I care if I am perceiving birds that are flying, or I'm perceiving my kids playing, or I'm perceiving, you know, having conversation with a dear friend, or if I'm perceiving listening to a piece of music, or if I'm perceiving riding a bicycle or walking in nature, or driving to work, as long as I'm happy. And happiness that depends on certain thoughts or certain experiences or certain situations is a conditional happiness. And the universal I knows better than loving conditional happiness, and knows that happiness is unconditional, like freedom is unconditional, like truth is unconditional, like beauty and love is unconditional. And so the direction is towards realizing that that is not subject to conditions. And that is not subject to conditions is consciousness. Coming back to your question about thoughts, how come thought A or thought B or thought C arise? Another way of looking at it is that it's the freedom of consciousness. Because every thought that arises is known via consciousness. So the thought has to come to consciousness to be experienced, to be known. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it does not come to consciousness, what's a thought? There is no thought. So the reality of consciousness, what makes of thought, excuse me, what makes a thought be is consciousness. So you could say that the reality of a thought is consciousness. And there aren't two realities. It's just that one reality. We know it deeply within our being. So, given that there is one reality, there is only one cause. If you want to look at it that way, I mean, what is the cause of a thought? It's consciousness. Given that there is one reality, then the reality of the thought is consciousness. And the creator of the thought, if you want to use that term, is consciousness. So consciousness is creating all thoughts, all perceptions, all sensations out of itself, because there is no other reality but consciousness. So it creates out of itself to amuse itself, because there is no other reality that can be amused by consciousness but itself. So consciousness creates thoughts out of itself to amuse itself. It even plays the delusion game. It plays the game of forgetting what it is. Well, I forgot who I am. I am now David, or I am Megdi. I forgot who I am. Meaning I forgot that I am that one reality. It plays the game of identification. And it plays the game of returning to its own revelation, knowing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the sweet part of the game, of the journey is the return home.
Yes.
Because yes.
Does this game causes a lot of grief?
Cause don't focus on the grief. Focus on what the grief does. What the grief does is it makes you stop and pause and ask yourself, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here?
Okay, you got me there.
What the heck is going on here? What is all this grief about? Why am I grieving? At some point in time, you hear something that reverberates, that resonates for you. You hear something that is connected to your grief, but is coming from a different. It's a message that's coming from a different realm, and somehow you know it's connected to your grief, and it sort of grabs your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you on a journey, or it takes you in a direction where it's less and less mind and more light.
Yes.
It's really it's like the calling of God. You know, you putting it in religious terms. It's like being called by the Lord to come home. And you don't know, we can't understand it at the mind level, but somehow your heart knows. Is you can't say no.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find that there is more and more light, more and more happiness, more and more peace in that direction, although the mind is not getting it. And at some point in time, the mind gets it. It starts to get it. And the way it gets it is it becomes more and more at peace. Its questions get answered. They don't necessarily just get answered at the mind level. They get answered at the mind level and at a deeper level via the peace that comes. That is the real answer to all mind questions.
An answer without words.
Yes.
This is something I noticed lately, that it's like the mind is giving up. It's like, this is doing no good, asking these questions. And it's not like it's stopping itself, it's just like it feels, or I feel, or how you want to call it. Well, let's just shut up a bit.
Yeah, and there is sometimes when the mind is quiet, you may notice something else that is not a mind, that is not a mind form. That's a beingness, a peace. A presence. That's an absence of mind, an absence of angst. And there is a deep trust sort of behind it or in it or within it. A deep trust that is the meaning of all is well. And that wellness and well-being is that presence. And although sometimes or often it is overlooked, it is there And through our love for truth, it reveals itself more and more. And heals all wounds in the entire realm. Because it has no boundaries, it's not personal. It's a universal well-being. And it becomes clearer and clearer that the mind, the direction of the mind, leads to more and more, like driving on a highway and then there is an intersection right on or left, and then you take the right one and then you get another interaction, then there are four roads and you take one of them and then it gets you to 12 different. It's like a maze. It's an understanding that the mind is just going and going and going and going without rest, sort of. It's like a restlessness, and a habitual restlessness is so tricky because it's convinced that more mind will get the answer. But at some point we get wise to that, and we stop. And we find ourselves in this doorway. This may seem as a vulnerability initially, but it opens a wider and wider space of love and peace and well-being that is not dependent on any condition. It is not dependent on any worldly condition. It's the light that shines onto the world, body, mind, irrespective of what objects are in the space. The light shines equally onto everything, and it's that blessing, that shining of the light that brings clarity, creativity, and a sense of play, because the world, body, mind is a garden in a way, with one's children, work, friends, nature. There are traumatic events happening, and whenever you look at these traumatic events, you find that the cause and the source of this trauma is the forgetfulness of our true nature. This identification, me and not you.
Mm-hmm.
But you do not partake to that because you see that path is the me path only maintains the sense of separation and unhappiness and angst and sense of incompleteness. So you do not walk down that path, you don't partake to that. You cease. And you trust that ceasing, because it's important to live your understanding and not just to keep it theoretical. You have to actually live it, apply it, test it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's lovely about living according to the high principle that of universal presence, universal consciousness, and not the contracted personal impression, is that it bears fruit. It's happy, it's joyful, it's peaceful. And the world events change in your life and become sweeter. It bears fruits. So it reinforces itself as you're living it. But if you don't live it, and you maintain the old patterns, then it remains dormant. What you truly are is awareness. Consciousness, presence. That's what you truly are. And it's not contained in a body. The body appears in it. It has no boundaries. Consciousness has no boundaries. It has no form. It's transparent. Everything refers to it. Every perception, every thought, every sensation refers to consciousness. It's a reality of all phenomenal experiences. It's what you are. I am the perceiver. I am the knower of thoughts, perceptions, sensations. I'm the knower. So consciousness is I am. Consciousness. I'm conscious of world, body, mind. And I'm conscious of being conscious. Meaning I'm self-conscious. Irrespective of world, body, mind events. I know I am. I don't know I am because I see a tree. No, I know I am irrespective of tree or no tree. So consciousness is self-knowing in the absence of world, body, mind, as well as in the presence of thoughts, perceptions. Because I know I'm aware of a thought. So I know I'm aware in the presence of a thought. And I know I'm aware in the absence of a thought, meaning I know I'm aware that I'm aware. I don't need a thought to know that I'm aware that I'm aware. That's a direct knowingness. That's so beautiful about consciousness. It's freedom. The meaning of freedom comes from consciousness. Unconditional freedom. The freedom to create, to destroy, to experience. freedom to forget, to remember, freedom to recognize or not recognize, freedom to pursue form or not. But the sweetness and the beauty is in the recognition of the unconditional reality that I am. This does not mean I cannot celebrate traveling, inviting friends for dinner or whatever, of course. But it's completely unconditional. My happiness does not depend on people showing up to dinner or people showing up to satsang or traveling. It doesn't depend. It's unconditional. And that's the celebration is. Living the dream out of your recognition of what you truly are, and not out of misinterpretation about being a mortal form. That virus can end, completely end. It can completely end. Completely. Thank you for your beautiful company, David. So if there are any questions. Hello, Ananda. So the question from Ananda is, does understanding the reality of consciousness bring peace beyond understanding? Yes. Yes. It seems to be many levels of getting it are needed. No. No levels. Your understanding of the reality of consciousness. Now, I would add that the understanding is not simply of the reality of consciousness, but also of its universality, meaning that consciousness is the reality of all phenomenal events. It is its own reality. It is the one reality, but it's not personal. It does not belong to a person that is real, it is universal. It's a universal consciousness. So that is the revelation that will bring peace beyond understanding. So understanding. There is misunderstanding about understanding. The misunderstanding about understanding is that there is an understander of understanding. And the correct understanding of understanding is that understanding is understander free.
Great language.
So understanding is the absence of an understander. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you are told a joke, okay? So somebody tells you the first line of the joke, you follow it, and the second line of the joke, you're following it. Then they give you the punchline. When they give you the punchline, so all these thoughts that were, they brought you to the punchline, and then when you get it, boom! At that moment, there is no mind.
Mm.
There is understanding.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
There is no understanding. There is just the bubbling of understanding. The revelation of understanding. In this case, it's a joke, so there's going to be laughter.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a revelation about consciousness, then there is tremendous joy and transparency and happiness, and so it depends. If it's about science, then there is a great sense of happiness that relates, that has that scientific, I got it. So understanding is, let's say, there is a gap. It's sort of the thoughts, the teaching or the joke or the whatever takes you to the edge, and then there is no mind. It's a gap, yeah, pure consciousness. And then after that, then thoughts first arise again. Oh, I got it. That was really great joke. I loved it. Oh yeah, I got it. I have to remember it. Or gee, I got that. I solved that problem. It's fantastic. I'm going to publish. I'm going to publish in the scientific magazine, and etc. So, but coming back to your question, yes, as understanding the reality of consciousness, being peace beyond understanding. Yes, the understanding, the reality and universality of consciousness. Yes, it's a very important final seal, the final seal of the stabilization of your knowingness is the revelation that consciousness is universal. It seems to be many levels of getting. No levels.
What I meant by levels was not like a hierarchy of something, but like you say, if the body still has tensions that are related to old vasana, for example, then the understanding, I don't know, gets swamped or something.
Yeah. You see, once you arrive at the revelation that consciousness is the reality of all phenomenal events and its own reality, there are various scenarios. Okay, one scenario is that there is already a lot of vasanic work that's been done pre arriving at this understanding.
I see.
Or some vasanic work has been done until the arrival of this understanding, and there is a little bit more left. So there is a whole spectrum of possibilities. Now there is the understanding that consciousness is real, and that I am this consciousness, and that's the only reality. And then there is the understanding that consciousness, that is real, is universal. Arriving to that understanding in most cases, in most cases, when you arrive at that final understanding, there is some vasanic work left, but not much to speak of.
I see. I see that distinction. That's interesting. So, and I believe I understand what you mean. It becomes like a big aha that, oh, consciousness is the real thing. That's where I want to be, or something. And then
that's what
consciousness is all there is.
Yeah, yes, consciousness, the first understanding is consciousness is what I am, and the subsequent understanding is everything is consciousness. All is the self. that final understanding very quickly dissolves all remaining vasanas.
I see. Yes, I can see if the inquiry in myself comes to a fullness where there really is no personal identity being held, that's when other so-called other people are no longer characters with a capacity to torment or whatever. They're no longer individual characters with a reality. As soon as I'm not a
Yes,
character in my own story.
there is a connection between me and others. There are no others without a me. So yes, as the me impression is seen through and is dissolving and becoming more and more transparent, this belief in others also gets a lot of holes in it. It becomes less and less, more and more doubtful, more and more questionable. And at some point, as there's a complete clarity that what I am is consciousness, then it's as if in the matadors, they unfortunately, it's sort of sad, but just this metaphor is coming to mind. They pick the toro with the
picador or something.
With the picadors, but there is the final coup de grace. There is a final relieving the bull of its suffering. So, as there is complete clarity that I am consciousness, it's like you are the bull that has all the picadors, but there is a final coup de grace that's needed.
Yes, I think you posted just this morning about pinches, picador pinches.
Yes.
They come to everyone. They come to you. You can't avoid it.
Yes, I remember that post. Okay.
No matter how you try to avoid the pinches, I think there's only one solution.
Yes. Actually, avoiding the pinches in itself, that's a pinch. Anything that is an avoidance has a pinch in it. It's only when you come to your complete stillness that you realize the illusory nature of the entire pinching process. I'm going to turn to an email from Shivaram that was sent to me. So I will read it. It's a little long. Dear Magdi, sending love. This came up early this morning and wants to be shared. Thank you for reading it today and speaking to it. Okay, it feels like words cannot be trusted. Everything is a paradox. Nothing is Advaita language. That which looks back at these last 6 years of increasingly complete devotion to oneness, to God, what is it? It has always been here in full, yet it is more and more revealed. All that can be understood is that it is marinating in itself, becoming more and more present and clear. These years of complete solitude, the absence of life management, providing and planning for the future. Fears are sustained, choices are made, the mind comments, but keeps on falling into void. How miraculous that life has created this niche for my exploration, this light, strong yet fragile spiderweb of circumstances that allows me to marinate. It cannot be more ephemeral and insecure. Nothing is secure or known. All circumstances conspire to highlight this. There is no more way out. This morning I awoke with the shredding of another subtle layer of holding. 14 years of living alone, and here it is, as alive as it was when I was a child. The knowing, or is it a longing, that this body-mind will dissolve in the embrace of the perfect lover, the ideal combination of beauty and strength, is so-called other. Yes, I know body-mind has already dissolved, has never really existed. I know that I am this lover myself, that this mystical love is generated from within. And yet a subtle romantic cloud, forgotten or simply chosen not to be remembered, hovers somewhere and comes in my dreams. It coexists with solitary contentment and contemplation. So I offer you up my beautiful dream. I let you go like one of these little flowers, filled banana leaf boats, set adrift on Mother Ganga. And then again, who is it who is letting go of this? Nothing but gratitude and finally silence. Well, thank you for sharing. It's quite lovely. The love that you dream of is already there. You are the love that you dream of. You are the lover. You are the loving and you are the loved as one. It is in this recognition that the lover comes to you and you recognize the lover as yourself. The sweetness in your dream, in your night dream and in your waking dream, comes from this recognition, the recognition that you are this love. And what your heart deeply desires will be fulfilled, not necessarily in the ways that you imagine, but in a sweet way, for certain. Thank you all for your beautiful company, your friendship, and your love. And Best to you, and we'll see you next week. Be well.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you all. Thank you all.